Findings, Mule Deer Restoration Committee. I trust everybody got the report that was given out. It was forwarded quite a while ago by the committee. The committee had a series of meetings on this matter, took a lot of public comments, read a tremendous amount of information, a lot of data. Mr. Wasley was staff of the committee. You'll find in this report, you'll find a wide variety of items in here, and they came from what I would call a wide variety of sources. A lot of them are direct quotes from NDOW documents, NDOW employees. Others came from, a lot of them, frankly, I don't know where the exact source was, but different peoples on the committee brought them forward. I know from different documents they'd come from or developed themselves, and we collated into one unified document. There are some items in here that are, it goes, I think it runs fairly the gamut from, there's going to be no objection to, what are you guys crazy? I mean, there's a fairly significant variety. I think that the committee was focused on a goal of coming up with not necessarily so much of a plan, but these are findings. And these items, committee felt that if this is followed, and then mule deer population, it will go, as it says, it will go far to restoring mule deer population range to prime conditions throughout the state of Nevada. We'll go far. Clearly, it's, there is probably no document or plan that will resolve all of the issues, but it would go far towards that. Also, this kind of addressed a few of the complaints, negative statements, things that have come out about this document. A lot of them refer to the items specifically that are on the second page of the document. I would say one thing about it is, don't perceive it as to anybody, any and all people within the department, without the department. Do not take these items as accusations that certain things are not being done or should be done. These were simply observations, and a lot of these things, it was specifically discussed, hey, they should go that no plan should go any farther in detail, because a lot of these items are administrative in nature, and one should never, for example, a couple of the more commonly quoted ones, numbers on that page number 2, top, number 6, number 7, number 5, number 4, those are administrative items. However, it was the feeling of the committee that they were relatively broad in scope. Maybe they weren't broad enough. Maybe they are broad enough, but they should be no more specific than they were here, because then you're getting into the actual administration of them. Any more specific details in any of those subjects would be probably beyond the scope of the commission, and that's kind of the way the committee was on it. So, some of the questions and things, comments I know came out from cabs were, well, so you guys are going to butt in there, and then you're going to create a subcategory underneath that and say what all these requirements are. That was never the intention of the committee, and the committee went so far in the meeting to say, no, we don't even need to, not like don't we need to go there, but we really can't go. We can't go there. The commission probably can't go there. So this is as much detail as it can. Some of the items we might be able to get into on the later pages, but those items, I think the more controversial ones, that was the feeling committee that it should be no more specific than that. Anything else is administrative. I think there's going to be a lot of agreement on a lot of the items in here. The interagency coordination interaction. A lot of these items, they're what is happening at NDOW today, every day. Some of them are small tweakings of the things that are being done. Others are proposed relatively large changes. A lot of them are philosophical in nature. Probably don't really need to go through every item on these pages, but I imagine as you almost as you get farther back in it, it probably gets less and less controversial through the toughest stuff at the beginning. A lot of items have even since been implemented in just even the last few months after the committee even knew about them, like talking about mineral supplementation. After this was brought up and discussed and decided by the committee, come to find out NDOW is doing that in some places on a more regular basis. This is maybe a little of an overview to try to delineate that a little bit. Pinyon juniper encroachment. I doubt there's going to be a tremendous amount of dissension on the issue. I mean, there's been a lot of science. This was based on several documents that were sent out, various PhDs wrote on things. Not that everybody believes everything PhDs say, but you know, that was the basis for many of these recommendations, a lot of those findings. Same with wildfire, a lot of that's some stuff there came out. There was different reports came out from the University of Nevada, Reno. I know that Gun Research Ranch was one that came out with a couple of these things specifically into wildfire, finding of fact. Just to throw out a couple examples, say the cheatgrass issues. That was one that specifically came from that, actually one of their more recent findings, and there's many other issues there. Just kind of throw those out to you. There are other issues as well, of course, that are not contained in this document. The commission talked about a lot of them and basically said, you know, these are the most pressing issues today. I understand there's other issues, but these are the most pressing issues today. And you'll see also that there's a couple issues such as the shed antler hunt, that basically the committee findings are, it's probably a big impact, but the committee could spend days on it. So if the commission thinks that it's a big enough item, then the commission should probably appoint a separate committee, because it's larger in scope than what the committee was willing to deal with at the time. And a similar recommendation came out about the feral horses, or wild horses, or public lands, or federal lands, or public administered lands, or however you like to name them, but I think we generally know what we're talking about.
When you're talking internally, you can call them whatever you want. I don't care.
Thank you, sir. I just didn't want to get whooped more than twice in any given meeting. Anyways, so there you go. Everybody's had a chance to probably look it over. What we're asking is that that the commission accept this as the findings of the committee and adopt, and if they'd like, the commission could adopt this as general findings of the Board of Wildlife Commissioners. Now, questions comes up, okay, well, where does it go from there? Well, some of these items, if the commission chose to, they could go ahead and create policies around them or utilize them more or less intact, but restructure them in a policy format if they thought that was, like, for instance, if I'm seeing some, like, what do you mean? Looks around here. For instance, if the commission saw fit at a later time in later meetings, we decided that the commission should have a policy on pinyon juniper encroachment. That you could take this finding on this page on pinyon juniper encroachment and develop that following these guidelines into a policy. Right now, accept it as findings of the commission, and later on, if they chose, we could take it piecemeal, wholesale, or any manner the commission chose. That's basically where I'm at. I think all the other committee members banded ship on here. Oh, there was one, Mr. Trump was saying something about there was a letter on this somebody sent out.
That's what I was going to read you.
Okay, you got it. Very good. Okay, go ahead.
This was sent to all the commissioners.
Before you read that, how long has this been out in the hand up for distribution?
My understanding is it was sent on email at 10:24 a.m. on the 24th
Of November?
of November. That's my understanding. So,
Are you talking about the one?
the findings of the Mule Deer Committee.
Yes.
At 10:24 a.m., 24th, it went out. That's my understanding. That's what I'm told by staff.
10 days later.
Okay.
we all got this email, and so I'm going to read it into the record.
Okay.
Dear Commissioners, we regret that we will not have a representative at the December Commission meeting. We would, however, request that the following statement be entered into the record of this December Commission meeting. And it's headline, Bring Back Our Once Great Game Herds Through Effective Predator Control. Dated December 1st, 2010. Commissioners, first of all, we would like to compliment and commend the Wildlife Commission for its actions taken over the past year. This is the first commission in the last few decades who have listened to the sportsmen of this state and not just rubber stamped what the Department of Wildlife has requested. As your mission requires, you have kept a close eye on what the Department of Wildlife has been doing and have taken him to task when necessary. We feel you are an asset to the sportsmen of the state of Nevada. Next, we of the Nevada Big Game Restoration Group have studied the 2010 Mule Deer Restoration Committee plan. We steadfastly agree with all of the information and recommendations set forth in this plan. We request that you would adopt this plan and implement its recommendations. We feel that if this plan is followed, we may be able to restore our once great mule deer herds. And it's signed respectfully, Nevada Jim Ornelius, President of Nevada Big Game Restoration Group, and Marshall W. Goldie, Secretary, Nevada Big Game Restoration Group.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, they'd asked that, just send that, I think this is, you can give a copy of that to Suzanne for the
We'll
record.
let go in the records and,
Yeah, if we can, if you got your copy, or
yeah.
somebody got a copy, you can hand to Suzanne for the record. All right, that was that. She's got one already. All right, so, Mr. Lent,
Thank you.
Commissioner
Is that for
Lent.
discussion yet?
Mr. Vice Chairman, we are open
Public
for public comment on this item. And let's start with Corey Lytle, he's on our committee. And maybe you could, maybe even expand greatly upon my summary of it.
For the record, Corey Lytle. First thing I'd like to do is thank the committee members for all the work they did, all the input we did. We looked through a whole compilation of information, a lot of work. The second thing I want to do is I want to thank Tony and the work that he did for us. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. A lot of the information we got came directly from his pen. It's fantastic. And just personally, the amount of reading and stuff that I'd gone through, it's great to have somebody with his knowledge and expertise on a lot of these issues be able to just sit there and answer direct questions in open meeting and know exactly what the situation is and what's going on. So I'd really like to thank Tony for all his input. My first request from our cab about this entire plan is that it's not a plan. We have a bunch of findings, we have a bunch of recommendations in a loose format. My cab and myself think it needs to go back out to the cabs, it needs to go back out to the public, it needs to be reviewed for legality, it needs to be reviewed for a lot of things that would help mesh to the current plan that we just talked about. We've already got plans in place. We've got all kinds of data that we reviewed, I mean, piles this high. Why don't we take it back? We take what we can, work with it, mesh it into the current plan we have, and move forward with that. That was my first cab recommendation. Personally, another thought is it's wonderful to have plans. It's wonderful to have all these kinds of things that say we're going to bring back the mule deer herd. We're going to bring it back in western Nevada. We're going to bring it back in northern Nevada. 99% of these things in this document, or in the 2006 plan, or in the WAFWA plan, cannot be implemented unless we have a means to get the job done, to get the work done. Whether it's funding, whether it's personnel, whether it's just the fact that we can't go into BLM land and do whatever we want to get the mule deer back. There's got to be a connectivity there and a means to the end, and a means to where we're trying to get. And so I think that has to be factored into this plan as well. One of my ideas, and I realize this is, I don't want to take up much more time because it's been pretty brutal today so far anyway. You know, I mentioned this in one of our committee meetings. It was brought up as a possibility of having a Mule Deer Restoration tag. It was brought up by Brad Quillisi. One of my ideas is, you know what, sportsmen always step up to the plate. If we need to find some more funding, if we need to go after some of these things, we should look at the possibility of having like a mule deer restoration fee on the application process, whether it's $1, $2, whatever, and try to work some of these things onto the ground. Get some boots on the ground to get some more collaring done, get some more studies done, work into some of these specific predator projects that are successful. I think that's a recommendation. I want to throw it out there as public comment, and you know, if we're revisiting some of the fee structure and that, I really think we ought to have a mule deer fee put on there. The hunters are going to step up and they're going to pay. They always pay their way. They'll always be there. And so I think it's a viable option. Is there any questions from the committee standpoint?
He's part of our presentation, really. I've just been late in the day, and I was trying to find him out in the audience. I thought he'd
I was the one sleeping back there.
part of our presentation. Any questions for him as well on the presentation? Mr.
Yes.
I have a
Commissioner Webb?
question, and some of my ideas on it, since we're required, the commission is required to set policies, and, you know, and I'm just talking about deer now, okay? And some of the notes that I have, and this is based on, Idaho has a law, there's a bill, HB 563, and it's called Intensive Management of Big Game Species When Game Numbers Have Been Depleted. So they put a law in the books when game numbers go down, and that's what I worry about. And, you know, there's many diverse factors affecting deer population in Nevada: highways, disruption of migration routes, range conditions, droughts, winter weather, predators, hunting pressure, overharvest, things like that. And so some of my philosophy was that to develop some type of policy that whenever an endow biologist substantiates a decline in deer or fondo ratio less than 20, because we got to look at the reproduction of our deer herds. So whenever we look at the reproduction and we get a fondo ratio of X, 20 or whatever the magic number is in his management area, the responsible area biologist must carefully study all the possible causes of declining deer numbers. Give him the first shot because he's familiar with the area. And he must look at the quality of the habitat, the health and reproduction rate of the herd, harvest levels, the impact of predators, etc. And he then must undertake actions that most likely increase deer numbers or document the reason for the decline based on his best knowledge. And the department must submit a report for the reasons for the decline to the commission, because we're the ones that can set emergency stop or whatever we can do. We can change the deer seasons. And then the Wildlife Commission will trigger, like Idaho, an intensive management plan if no cause can be determined. If no one has any idea what to do, and then those things could be something like this: reducing or eliminating non-resident hunting, reducing or eliminating resident hunting, completely close the season. Because we owe it to the population out there. If we have a non-reproduction in an area, then we better close the season. And these are what intensive management, if we can't find any reason, but we're trying to find the reason for it. And this is an action plan. And if these actions do not or unlikely result in higher levels of deer population, the commission may consider predator control or other, other things we could consider. And then that was just some of the ideas like Idaho has in their plan. And it's just general, you make an effort to find out the reason. And it could be any number of things. But right now, when we have a decline, we don't do those things.
Mr. Vice Chairman, did you read page 11? It's There's a lot of stuff similar
Yeah,
to
no,
that.
I
in
know
there.
there,
Okay.
and
I'm
that's why,
assuming some what you read might even come from the plan.
yeah.
Okay.
And so what I was thinking of is maybe we should, instead of losing this valuable document that you guys spent all this time creating, which has just been great, I'd like to see it not just fall off the wayside. I'd like to take some of it and send it over to the policy committee and make some policies with some of the data you have in there, or some of the ideas, I'm sorry.
I agree. You know, part of an emergency action plan could be put in to the normal management plan. And you say some of those things don't happen. We have a die-off in unit XXX. How do we go right in there on the ground if, you know, budget constraints and things like that? You guys set policy to go in and do this emergency measure to alleviate the issue. Where's the money going to come from? You don't know. Is it heritage money? Is it? I think it's one of the ways with a small fee that we could tap into things like that as part of the plan, the emergency action plan. You know, we looked at a presentation earlier about the collaring, and it's not just an Area 10, Area 7, Area 8, Area 1 situation. I mean, we got different mule deer situations all over the state. They're all different, and the only way we're going to be able to get into those different regions and get into those key problems, they might all be listed here, but the solution, where's the solution going to come from? Monetarily, where's it going to come from? It isn't going to be coming from the single regional biologist that has to cover 15,000 square miles. It can't. And so I'm looking, I completely agree. If we can work some of those things into this, you know, document, keep it working, keep it functional, keep it moving forward with a means to the end, I think it's fantastic. Anything else? I don't want to.
Questions?
That's why I'd like to accept it.
Mr. Macbeth, you have a question?
Yeah.
Corey? And then we got to move on to public comment. So.
Okay, so is this the point where if I have a question with regard to the findings and conclusions that I can ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. I got two. And to be quite honest, I got this, I guess, on the 24th, as you said. And that was Thanksgiving weekend, so I didn't get back. I was out of town, and so I got back Sunday, and so I had 4 days to look at this. And so something that's extensive, I wish I'd had a lot more time. And so I do concur with the issue of, what you raised about going back to the cabs and getting input and everything. That would give me a lot more time to look at this. But two of them stuck out, and so let me just ask some questions. The finding, the first one, problems with endow structure. I don't even know if I can agree with the finding, but let's just say that I do. It sounds like the commission is going to completely change the organization of endow. Is that what the recommendation is?
And I'm probably not the one to answer that. I don't think that's the idea, but I could defer this, or if there's any other, I don't know if Pat's still here.
Yeah, no, this basically is that the entire organization needs to be set around production goals. The number one item, set game production goals. And now number two, study the structure, and this verbiage was a little bit, there was a lot of question on the verbiage, but basically, does that mean change one job description or change 90% of them? That is nothing that the committee could make a determination on. This would simply be, the organization should be focused around
Okay, well, let me just read right from this. It says to study endow structure and completely overhaul the endow organizational chart with the goal of meeting game production goals. Eliminate positions, rewrite job descriptions, retrain personnel. Okay.
If you want to politically correct, you had the wrong group.
Huh?
Now, if you want to politically correct, you had the wrong group. But, I mean, in the way of some of these things are stated. A lot of these things, like the committee stated them as bluntly and directly as possible to make sure that there's no hidden agenda behind this. I mean, it's hard to have a hidden agenda when you throw it right out there in the open. But now, as you stated so aptly in the wolf issue example, but or no, the bear issue, excuse me. But you know, and this is the maximum, right?
Yeah, I guess
Overhaul it, look at it, and by the way, as far as this is the end-all organizational chart, if I remember NRS, which Brian, slapped me twice, but end-all, the director has to do that in cooperation with the commission.
Yeah,
This is not talking about, this is not something, 3 commissioners are going to get together and doing. This is something the director of the Department of Wildlife would have to do in cooperation with the commission.
Okay, well, I guess you got right to the point I wanted to make. And I was looking at NRS, and it says the director shall, this is under the director's duties, the director shall, within such limitations as may be provided by law, organize the department, and from time to time, with the consent of the commission, may alter the organization. The director shall reassign responsibilities and duties as he or she may deem appropriate. In other words, the way I read this is that it's the director that has that authority, and if he wants to change it, then he can with the consent of the commission. I don't see where the commission has the authority to do any reorganization.
The commission would recommend that the director do that, set around the game production goals, number 1.
Okay, so that was I just
we're not trying to break
okay
the law. The law was thrown out there. Everybody had copies.
I want to.
At least 3 times.
Yeah, the other one that I had some trouble with. First of all, on habitat, and I haven't read this. I read this earlier this week, and there's a lot of stuff in there that I agree with, but there seemed to be this emphasis on almost a livestock emphasis of getting more livestock out on the range to disturb the forage and create better range conditions. I got a ton of questions around that. It talked about a substantial increase in AUMs, and it had some good ideas about rotational grazing and stuff like that. I don't know how practical that is on public lands, but. I guess my thought is I and I'll defer to Mr. Vogler isn't even here today. I can't even pick on him. Anyway, my knowledge of this is that first of all, ranchers in general had a substantial cut in AUMs. And so when you look at if you look at a term permit, if you look at a grazing permit, what you'll see on there is you'll see actual AUMs that they have currently, and then you'll see suspended AUMs. AUMs that they had, and I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was in the 90s, where they made a substantial cut in AUMs. BLM, basically is what I'm talking about. That's my experience. BLM made a substantial cut in AUMs, and so a rancher on his term permit will have actual AUMs, current actual AUMs, and he'll have suspended AUMs. And it's been, and I know I've only been involved in ranch issues for 5 years, so I'm no expert, but I've been told that it is very unlikely, very, very unlikely that those suspended AUMs would ever come back. And I also know that BLM is currently involved in extensive litigation with the Western Watershed Project, and with their stated goal to basically remove livestock production from public lands. And so I look at this recommendation and I think, wow, I mean, this really does go against, it's got a really uphill battle. And I guess I could ask the question, did we go to BLM and go to Forest Service and get any comments from them as to what the likelihood of any of this happening would, if there was any likelihood that this could ever happen ever. And so I can see it as, I can see findings, and But I guess I really struggle with this one as to the reality of what we could possibly expect from BLM on this issue.
First of all, the federal agencies were invited to several of the meetings, okay, and I don't remember if they showed up once. That's my first comment on that. My second comment on that is in dealing with my experience with grazing, AUM situations, public land use. A lot of the on-the-ground decision-making happens right there with that regional specialist, whether it be it's usually the grazing expert out of that local office. Certain grazing practices in certain districts, whether it's Ely District, Battle Mountain District, whatever district, are kind of tailored to what their land use plan is. Okay, it's their, it's their RMP, Resource Management Plan, or if it's Forest Service, it's something similar. It is very difficult to increase any kind of use from what's already been allocated and what's already been, put into place. Certain practices can be modified a lot easier, whether it's rotational, TNR type, high use, high intensity, low duration type setups. They can be modified a lot better than a full seasonal, increase, so to speak. And without, I don't want to go into a lot of that detail. A lot of my input and emphasis on this aspect, and Scott can speak from his position as well, was to engage these federal land managers at the ground level and to try to get them to see from our eyes what we can do with deer and the benefits to that grazing, the benefits that grazing provides. It's very difficult, and you'll see some of those reflected in the plan to try to get these guys on board with you, so to speak, try to get them on your side. Partnerships like Lee Turner's Partnership Conservation and Development, they're vital to battling Western Watersheds projects, people like that. And so it's an uphill battle. Sometimes you kind of have to take the back alley, so to speak, to try to get even the smallest increases in what you want to do. It's very difficult, especially where so much land is publicly managed, controlled by the feds. And so once again, it's one of those things that we see the end, we just need a means to get there. And I had one other thought on the tip of my tongue, and I lost that. But anything else?
Well, I did want to just say, in general, I saw some really good ideas in here. I really, I think there's some good stuff in here, but these two really kind of stuck out, and I guess that's basically my comment.
Corey, what would be your recommendation with respect to this document?
The first thing I want to just point out is there is an immense amount of information that's here, both in finding and in recommendation. I would recommend that we kick it back to the cabs, a wealth of knowledge from the ground up, and bring this back the other direction. Without any formal action right now, take what's recommended from the cabs. You guys have a chance to digest it. We can revisit it in a future meeting, the February meeting possibly. Take what's brought back, kind of incorporate that, and if we have to kind of move it in even 2 or 3 months down the road, then bring it back into some kind of a formal adoption, where we can figure out a means, a path from these recommendations to get more mule deer on the ground, get more hunters out there, get more of a resource. That's my recommendation.
All right, Mr. Howell?
Corey, when you send this to the CAB, make sure you include the names of the people that contributed to this, besides just the committee members. There was a lot of other people that could.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
I will. All right, yes, go ahead. And then we gotta get to public comment here.
I just wanted to do some general comments.
We should.
You want to do that
Yeah, we'd
after
like to get public comment.
Okay.
And I'll just preface that, a lot of this stuff, it's amazing how much this data, especially talking about the wildlife, or the livestock stuff, came out of the Nevada Department of Wildlife. All this stuff about disturbance, virtually everything that talks about disturbance, that was out of NDOW documentation. Virtually everything. All right, let's go to the back, and then we'll come up to Mr. Dixon.
I'll make this short and sweet. Tom Castanelli for the record, Humboldt County. We also made a motion to postpone this to the next commission meeting. We get these committees that come in with all their information to this board, and our constituents have no time to, we get them November 24th or whatever. Well, by the time they get them, it's at our meeting or a little bit before, and they have no time to put any input to us. So it's just, you're getting 5 members that have the input. And I think this should go further than right here with this committee. I think every committee that you guys put out should have to come in front of this board, give their findings, and the following meeting, we act on there. We've had this happen 2 or 3 times now, that a committee comes in front of this and you have to run it through, and that also gives the committee a deadline. If they know they've got to move their deadline up a meeting to, they know when they have to be finished up by. But it's terrible to give our sportsmen 2 or 3 days of looking at this, and some not even that, one night to try to figure out what's going on and then get our input. We just said, hey, we're not going to put any input on this. We'd just like to see it. But like I said, every committee that brings a finding to this commission should have to wait till the following meeting to get an action on that, on those committees. Items.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Dixon?
For the record, Paul Dixon, and I will be leaving after this. I apologize, but I have to take an early flight out tonight. First off, I'd like to thank the chairman of this report and all the committee members. Actually, I thought there was a tremendous amount of very good material in here, and I thought you guys put a lot of stuff in, and I know that Clark County didn't have as much to input into this just because of our things, but looking through it, I think the biggest problem that I had, and I won't repeat, is that I really support the position that Corey took up here. I think it's the right position. And I think that's kind of where our cab came down, was just getting enough time to look at things here. But I wanted to reiterate and commend you and the committee, because I really think you put a lot of stuff into here. And I also want to thank you for your clarification to Commissioner Macbeth about NDOW versus conversation you had in your statements there, because that was a concern that I had, and you'll see in my minutes, but I think you went a ways to clarifying and making me better understand your position you had there, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And a lot of that comes from reading minutes. I mean, reading minutes, cab meetings, and, oh, that's what we missed. Let's address that. So, appreciate the minutes always. Go ahead, please.
Rex Flowers, Washoe County. We were not able to take action on this because of the timing. You produced this on the 18th. I received it on the 22nd. I went to my recording secretary and asked if we could get it put back on our agenda. And we couldn't, because only the 23rd and 24th were work days, 25 being Thanksgiving, 26 being a family day, then the holiday, and then our meeting was on the 29th. We would like to see this deferred back to the cabs and give the cabs time to go through and consume this, get their hands on it and review it. Thank you.
Did I say the 24th earlier?
You did.
And I stand entirely corrected. I said the 24th. It was 10:24 a.m. on the 22nd. Absolutely correct. My mistake. Too many numbers rolling around.
Darrell Harwell, speaking for myself. One of the things that was brought up at the Washoe County CAB meeting is Mark Frissy, your habitat specialist. There's an $8.8 million interest-bearing account mitigation for the Ruby Pipeline. Now, granted, the projects are got to be pygmy rabbits and sagebrush, or sage grouse. But if we can put out sagebrush in this area, that's going to increase the habitat.
It has to be used in the area of the cut. Yeah.
It's still got to be, it's going through Washoe County, it's going through most of the counties. So if we're putting in sagebrush, I mean, we're going to be improving the habitat. Do we got projects going on that for the mule deer that we're classifying as sage grouse habitat?
Thank you. All right, go ahead, and then we'll have Elko.
Anyhow, Walter Mandeville, Lyon County. We did discuss this issue at our meeting 2 nights ago, and we felt that there were some parts of the plan, and we agreed with Mr. Macbeth on a couple of those issues. There are some very good things in there, but we feel that it needs to be worked a little further, and we agree that it should be sent back to the cabs for further comment and further work, because when I first read it, I was thinking, what the heck, this doesn't look very good, but there are some good things in there. So we want to thank you for the effort. The other thing is, it wasn't mentioned about the mule deer numbers, and I do know that as a biologist, I experienced some pretty huge die-offs coming out of the Sierras into winter range, and you end up sending 100,000 deer out and you get 50,000 back. There's a problem, and there was a serious disease problem that's been running in the Sierras for many years. It's been a cyclic thing, and I can't recall the name of it, and Berkeley and some other institutions have been working on this to try to identify that. But they go up and they die on summer range. You never see the dead animals. You just get a lot fewer numbers coming back. So, and that's not a predator problem there. That's something totally different. But the biologists are very aware of that, and we have in the past gone to the commission for emergency reductions in seasons and season closures. And maybe not your commission, because I've been retired for a few years now. But I do recall those days. So thanks much.
Thanks. Let's have Elko. Come on, Candito. Then we'll have Mr. Jenny. All right. Janae.
Jim Janae, speaking for myself. I think there has been a lot of effort gone into this plan, and I'm really happy with it. There's parts in there that we say. The one thing that, the very first thing to hit me, and I got a lot of calls on it, is the firing of the biologists if the deer don't go up. Well,
removal, not firing. There was a
okay.
technical technical difference, and that would be administrative, not
right. And the thing depends on whether they're classified, non-classified. It's the first one that we came up against that is, how do I say it? We need to, I think it really needs to be reworked and some of the wording changed. We're taking things that we can't do. We're saying that we're going to do this and that with the terrain, and it takes BLM. It's going to take NDOW. I think maybe if we put this out a little bit and had more of our foundations, NBU, Chucker Foundation, and so on, get input into it. I think it can be a very good plan. I think there's a good basis here to start with, something we haven't had before. But I would like to see it go back to the cabs and everybody to see, and I would like to see it get sent out to the foundations, the Deer Foundation and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like we got Elko, and looks like that's it.
I would like.
Okay.
Candido Mendy speaking for myself. Partially my omission, partially because I didn't have any support material. I didn't put it on the agenda. Because of the holidays, we were up against open meeting laws, and we couldn't, without having information, we couldn't do much about it. We sat down as a board member item and we talked about it. The four of us that were there, we agreed there were good items, but there was things that bothered us too. So like everybody else, I would ask that you bring it, send it out to the cabs, and let us digest it. There's a lot of material in there. There's a lot of suggestions that our people, our hunters, and other people will have along these lines. I think that when you're talking about something as big as this, you need as many people as possible to give their ideas and to buy into it, because the first, as one of the members said, I could live with it except for the first 2 pages. And so that's really what, that was sort of the comments, that there were things that really bothered people in there, and there was things people could support. But without sitting down and spending a lot of time digesting it, maybe more than one meeting, trying to work through this whole process. But it's got good ideas, and it's a start. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gardner.
Walt Gardner for the record. I want to commend the people on the committee. This is a tremendous document, and it's well overdue. I hear people saying that you shouldn't remove biologists for not being able to maintain high deer numbers. As a rancher, if I can't maintain high cow numbers, I am removed, and that is a part of life. You're saddled with a certain responsibility, and you should take that responsibility seriously. Other than that, it's a great document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the public comment, seeing no further public comment, move this back to the commission. And I'll throw out one thing, after going through this process, we had so much input, especially the first parts of the first few meetings. We had, 20-something to 30-something people at the first several meetings. We had some meetings there was not that much public input as well. I think our last meeting there was only a couple members of the public. But we had a huge amount at many different meetings. We had the commission, the meeting room in the Elko Department of Wildlife there. It was basically full a couple times. A couple times it was about half full. We invited input. We took it's been on this commission's agenda every time to take in input from the county advisory boards, to hear their plans. The one thing we don't want to do is what some of this recommendations, hey, let's throw this back out and get it reworded. To get this a final product that's going to be agreeable to everybody in all of the cabs, and they're going to try to reword all this wording to fine tune it. How many years do we want to spend? Well, we could take another 6. This took so long as it was, is to be unreal. We got to come up with a product at some point. Now, thing is about it is as it is, it can be accepted as it is, as findings of the commission, and then what do you do with it? I think basically what the Vice Chairman was saying before was the right thing to do with it. Then you send it out to see if you can make some policies out of it. And that would be the fine-tuning of the different parts, is in policy. Because a policy is going to state this and that, and that would be the fine-tuning, perhaps, of it. If we could send this out and try to fine-tune, shotgun all of it, a lot better, send it to the policy committee, accept it, then send it to the policy committee and say, hey, policy committee, let's take this section, figure out if you want to do a policy. Then they can take it section by section, policy by policy, and come back before the cabs, before everybody in that format. That's just my suggestion, because, man, you don't want to deal with this process. And we had so much input. We took input from everybody, took input from the cabs. Elko County, I know they said they could make, it was right there in their town. They were at several of the meetings. Basically, we took the little bit of input that was there. We invited actually members of their cab to give reports on different things on the commission. They actually had members of their cab give reports of the deal. So anyways.
Mr. Chairman, I understand where you're coming from, but I frankly think that we ought to have the document that goes to the policy committee be as clean as possible for them to deal with specifics within it. And for that reason, what I would like to see done is that it be sent back out to the cabs, put back on the agenda for the February meeting, and take final action on it then.
I agree. That's an idea, but just throw it out there. How long do you want to deal with it? In what format? This committee hit it and hit it and hit it. We took every piece of input. Anyways, I'm Mr. Calvin.
I haven't commented yet, so I'll do that first and then make a stab at a motion if you're ready. Obviously, there was a huge amount of work that was involved in this, and when I got it, the lion's share of it is very well written, very well presented. Obviously, we probably have some issues with it based on our personal preferences and those kinds of things. I did feel it was a little bit heavy on the livestock side, but I'm sorry. I did feel the report was a little heavy on the livestock end of it, but they were all valid, points. So the thing that I was wondering where we were going to go with this, and I really didn't have time to sit down and what I wanted to do was make a point-to-point comparison with the department's mule deer plan, because I think there's a lot of mesh there. But I frankly didn't have time to do that, and I would like to have time to do that. So I think we should table this or wait till the next meeting, whatever the wording is. But I would like to make a motion to defer this action on this item until the February meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Was there a second? Defer. I'm trying to remember. Motion to defer. Would that be motion to table? I'm trying to remember motion to defer.
I think it's the same as table. But
Same as table? Okay.
Go ahead, take
Would you
discussion.
be averse to changing it to that we agreed to send it out to the cabs and put it back on the agenda in February?
Oh, that's basically my motion. Give us more
No,
time.
if it's table it, it's not.
No, I said defer action.
I don't mind the defer action, but let's make sure it's supposed to go out
Okay.
and come back
Oh,
for
defer
action
action
in
on
February
this.
meeting.
You want me to restate the motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'd restate my motion to defer action on this item, the Mule Deer Restoration Committee report, and send it back to the cabs for further input and back to the commission in February.
Okay.
Second agrees.
Second, a second. I'm taking defer action to mean take no action
Today.
today. And if we can clarify that, then we probably don't have to look up the word defer. If you'll tell me that
That'd be
it's
nice,
take
'cause I
no
can't
action
No
today.
action today.
Find it in a minute here.
Second agrees.
Okay, so the motion is to take no action on this item today.
What about
Br-
suspend?
Bring it back this motion, and to bring it back at the next commission meeting.
Send
And-
it out to the cabs.
And it's already out to the cabs.
Yeah.
So they have it. They have it. Okay, so that's something. Okay. Does everybody understand the motion?
Okay, it says defer is an expression to be avoided.
I think the term is actually suspended.
No wonder I used it.
Also note for the record that my last name is no S on the end, it's on the first page. Other than that, I didn't find a typo in the document. All right. And before this comes out, I'd also like to state that the committee, to my knowledge, the committee never asked for a single penny of recompense for their time, travel, any spending whatsoever, nor was there any staff time utilized in the production of the document, because we were directly told by the director that there would be no staff time available to be utilized, and actually we got that basically in writing from the Deputy Attorney General and then through the Director's Office. There would be no cooperation in processing this document whatsoever. And so there was no staff time expended on this whatsoever, and no money. Just thought I'd throw that out there. So we have motion, second on the table. Does everybody understand the motion?
Can I have a clarification?
Yes.
If we were, just for example, to approve the findings today and put it back on the agenda for February to take the recommendations of the cabs and send it to the policy committee, would that have any bearing? I mean, would that?
Of course, because that would be the process of You can say, okay, we adopt these findings to the commission. Now, let's send this to the policy, now let's send it out to the policy committee, to the cabs, to be turned into policy. That would be a different methodology.
Would you be acceptable to changing your motion to do that?
No.
All right, any further, everybody understand the motion as it is?
Could you repeat it?
I don't, okay. My understanding of the motion is, I'll try to give it brief, is take no action today, put it on the next meeting. And that's it, because all the other portions of it are done already. So that's it.
Is it a motion to postpone then? Is that?
It was a motion to take no action today. So which,
And a technical term, I think, is to lay it on the table. You're tabling it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Right?
okay. All right, we're looking through the book here on the correct technical
Do we need to be
terminology.
that technical,
Why don't you take a
Mr.?
break if we're gonna get into
Can we
the-
move on to the next item and then revisit the motion? Because we got, no, that's, next one's a big item. Let's take a break, yes. It's been a while since we had a break. 10 minutes. Mr. Deputy Attorney General, so what was
just
the
a
motion we just made?
Motion to postpone to a definite time.
So the motion, as I heard it from Mr. Cavan, was a motion to postpone to a definite time, and that being of the next meeting of this commission.
Correct. You stated that correctly.
Okay, was that the correct motion, seconder of the motion? Okay, does everybody understand the motion as it was made and properly seconded? Any questions? We're okay with the other dag on that? Okay, just check and make sure we're okay. All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion,
I abstain. No, I voted for it.
motion passes 4-5-6. 6 with Mr. Howell. Mr. Howell voting nay. You voted aye.
Aye.
Okay. Actually, that should have been in the form of a question, but Mr. Howell was the only nay vote. There we are. All right, number 23. It was number 23, we just got done, so now we're on to C. Big game season setting process.